Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is the 18th of March 2025. We're continuing our online Angel Wings personal transformation program. Today is week number 11, and we're starting our presentation now for year number 2, week number 11. A couple of quick review points that during the current series in year number 2, we are moving through this 5-step process, and specifically we are on step number 3, which is, or stage number 3, energy conservation. So along those lines, the goal is, of course, to conserve and to utilize certain amount of energy and to conserve as much as possible. So to understand this concept even further and a little bit more clearly, almost as a review, because I've talked about this a bit before, but I want to make sure that it's really clear step by step. So there's a good analogy here that we'll get into. So the explanation of using activated personal energy and availability mode. What is that? Well, let's think of it this way. In the context of personal energy management, think of your overall energy like a battery, right? So we can consider the overall energy reserve or as like existing in a battery, total energy reservoir. So you have a finite amount of energy at any given time. This is your battery. All right? That should be easy to understand. Now, when a person focuses on a task, whether it's a mental task, an emotional one, or a physical one, that person activates a portion of one's energy, of his or her energy, to get the job done. Easy to understand that, obviously, right? So whenever we are focusing on a task, we begin to activate a portion of that energy, just like a battery has stored energy, but some of it becomes active. This activated energy is what you're actively using to engage in the moment. Right, so right now, for example, I'm talking, Sachin is speaking. So the activated energy from my body, from my brain, in my senses, etc., that activated energy is being used actively right now to talk. Right, you're using it actively to listen or to take notes or to think about this. So energy can only be actively used after it's activated. It can never be activated. It can never be actively used until it's activated. Right? So this should be very clear and easy to understand. All right, let's move on. So the availability mode, standby mode. The remaining unspent energy is kept in an availability or standby mode. It's ready for use if needed, but not fully depleted. Think of it as part of the battery that's still charged, but not yet drawn upon. So battery has the potentiality. It's available. It can be used right away, but it's not used yet. It's just a charge. So if it has 80% charge, that's still available. So it's something like that. That's standby mode, right? So the dormant energy becomes active, or some way the energies from our food, etc., become available. They become available, or they get into standby mode. Right now, reconnecting activated energy to storage. After you finish your task or recognize you don't need as much energy you initially activated, any unused portion can be returned to your overall energy reservoir, like putting your tools back on the shelf for next time. Right? So the availability is there, and then it's conserved, so that returning back into just a nice storage again, without depleting it, without wasting it, without doing something else to it, that is energy conservation. So by doing so, a person avoids wasting energy or leaving it in a tense, always on state. People say that, I just feel like I'm on all the time. I feel like I just can't relax. Why is that? Because you don't know how to pull it back again and let it just settle down and back into its reservoir. Right? So that's why we do meditation. That's why we do all these exercises and dialogues, as well as um, alternate nostril breathing, and we have the religious studies program, and all those things that we do in Angel Wing has very much to do with avoiding wasting of energy, and so that it's not left on all the time. So this replenishes one's battery, quote battery, one's inner power, ensuring one's overall personal level remains as high as possible. Personal energy level remains good. It remains high. If we want to keep our energy level high, we must recognize that it is necessary to reconnect the activated energy back into the storage mode again, right? So active energy is there. Like, for example, we're having a conversation with someone. We use some of the activated energy to have the conversation, but then not having too much conversation, not having too less conversation, the remainder of the energy comes back inside. Sometimes we know that some subject we're discussing with someone might get into just too much emotionality. It's not necessary digging up things from the past, things like that. It's unnecessary. That will deplete energy. It will waste energy. It will cause more disturbance. We don't want that. So that's what that would mean there. Now, practical application. So mindful engagement. Before starting an activity, consciously decide how much energy to use. And this is the whole point. How much energy to use, how much time to use, in what way to use it, just like a bank account, just like money. If you have $1 million in the bank account and you withdraw $5,000 with you, and doesn't mean you're going to use $5,000 immediately. You have $5,000 cash, let's say, but then you still haven't used it. So then it's like that. So before going to shopping or going to the restaurant or going to some place to buy something, buy whatever, one decides how much of that $5,000 to use, right? So this is the idea here. So before starting an activity, consciously decide how much energy to activate. It's a conscious decision that this is how much I want to activate. This is how much time I want to spend. Now, self-awareness is step 2. Monitor one's mental, emotional, and physical states to notice when you're using more energy than necessary. It can happen, right? It can happen emotionally, mentally, physically. Let's look at all three of those. For example, let's say one is doing some kind of an analysis, some project requiring some analysis. Mental energy is used. But then you'll notice what happens. Sometimes people get frustrated. They don't understand something. So there's a problem somewhere. The frustration uses a lot of energy. Or sometimes the activity itself uses a lot of energy. So we have to decide, is too much being used here? And if that's so, we have to pull back, reconnect it again. Emotions use a lot of energy too. So how much is what's the quality of the experience of emotions? Things that we've talked about before. So mental, emotional, and physical states, monitor them. Monitor where they're going. Monitoring is to be aware, okay, it's going in this direction, it's going in this direction. That there's too much time, too much power is being used. And if that's the case, then wind it down. So wind down or transition. So once you've completed the activity, whatever one has decided to do, it should be done carefully, steadily. The steadiness should not go away. We don't want that to go away. And so once an activity has been completed, take a moment to relax or breathe, effectively transitioning any unspent energy back into one's storage. So you feel recharged again, then drained, right? So once the activity is done, just take steady breaths in and out. Maybe do a prayer if you want, or some type of meditation. Any kind of meditation is good. And leave the unspent energy that was available, let it settle down. It'll just settling it down by keeping the mind calm, the breath calm, the mind calm, it settles down. And then it goes right back into a storage modality. And so that recharges our experience. We feel recharged rather than depleted or drained. This is the procedure here. And these slides will be available for you. So what's the key takeaway? This process promotes efficient energy usage. By activating only what you need and keeping the rest in a relaxed standby mode, then reclaiming unused energy back into your reservoir, you maintain a good, well-regulated energy flow, leading to greater resilience, less fatigue, and an overall sense of balance. Right? So this is a very good way to understand the energy conservation concept. I've been trying to explain it since we started this series. I don't know how successful I was in trying to explain it pretty well, but this gives a relatively straightforward explanation of how to do this. Right? So these are the points. And now, today, having that review, I want to talk about the dimension of spirituality, religious life, and meditative life together in terms of energy conservation, energy flow. Right? So first of all, you'll notice that personal energy flow obviously is a dynamic force within all of us. It's a dynamic force. It gives us the capacity to act. That personal energy flow facilitates emotional, spiritual, physical connections to the universe. It encompasses practices that enhance one's life force, promotes balance and harmony. Right? So that's pretty straightforward. We know that our energies are not in isolation. They're connected to the overall cosmos and the universe in general. Right? So we'll talk more about that when we have retreats and all. But this is pretty straightforward. Now, this slide here that you can see, you see the notes on the side here. The slide presents an overview of personal energy flow, emphasizing the dynamic force within an individual that facilitates emotional, spiritual, physical connections to the universe. The concept aligns well with personal energy conservation, which refers to the mindful management and preservation of one's energy to maintain balance, well-being, and harmony. Right? So the flow of energy, this is the general concept, plus conservation, as we've been talking about. What does it do? Maintaining balance. Point number 1. Enhances well-being. Point number 2. Gives us harmony. Right? So these ideas that we have been discussing just even today and in the past weeks, they give us the ability to maintain balance. That's our theme this year anyway. Our theme this year is to sustain balance. Whatever balance we have achieved in the 12 dimensions, we want to maintain that. We don't want to fall back. I mean, there may be some fallback, but we want to bring it back again into a balanced state. That imbalance is where all the trouble begins. So we don't want that. Okay, now, connecting personal energy conservation to this slide. The wind turbines are a symbol of energy flow and conservation. The image of wind turbines represents the efficient use and conservation of energy from natural sources. Similarly, individuals can harness and direct their internal energy effectively by practicing mindfulness, meditation, and intentional living. So there's 3 things. Internal energy flow is enhanced by mindfulness, meditation, and intentional living. How does that connect to the religious meditative dimension? Well, mindfulness is, it's fairly straightforward. You're just aware of what's happening in the present. And in that awareness, one is taking steady breaths, one is making the right decisions, things like that. Not getting stuck in the past, not getting tangled up about worries about the future, keeping everything in a balanced, very good state. That's like part of what mindfulness is all about. Meditation, different forms of meditation are really good. And then, of course, intentional living. So intentional living is to say that during the next hour, during the next 2 hours or 3 hours, this is my intention to do the following. And once I have set the intention, then it's not going to be changed. I'm going to follow through with it. The follow through is called intentional living. Just setting the intention is just called intention setting, right? So mindfulness and meditation help us to set the intention, and please include prayer in that. So prayers, religious studies, those kinds of things are very good. Going through the Bible or going through the scriptures or listening to spiritual talks, religious talks, all of that is very good. It gives us a greater awareness. So we're going to talk about that in a moment in more detail. Right? But what does it do? It promotes internal living and intentional living. It promotes internal energy harnessing. Okay, so just as turbines convert wind into power without wastage, individuals can optimize their personal energy by reducing unnecessary mental, emotional, and physical exertion. This is the key here. So when we do meditation, when we are engaged in prayers, when there's a greater connection with a higher power, with God, with higher reality, what does that do for us? It reduces unnecessary mental exertion. It reduces mental exertion. It reduces emotional exertion. It reduces physical exertion. Exertion means stress. It reduces that because we are letting things go that we shouldn't be hanging on to, right? So the exertion that we as human beings create internally is like a tension that's created inside by our imbalances in day-to-day activity. That tension is reduced or even eliminated when personal energy is used to connect with a much higher, greater truth, maybe through philosophical inquiry or through religious studies or religious prayer, through Bible study, through rituals of different kinds, meditations of different kinds. What does it do? All of that brings balance to personal energy, which in turn brings balance to mind. Mind being the TEMDE, thought, emotion, memory, desire, energy. All five, all four, the thought, emotion, memory, desire, they come into a balanced state because energy is getting conserved. Let me talk about this a little bit more here. Energy is being conserved by prayer, meditation, and mindfulness meditation, by prayers, by a religious connection with the divine. All of that is helpful to us because the tensions that most human beings carry, they need a release valve, a way to release all the tension, right? So insights, more awareness of day-to-day activity is also there. So the more we release pent-up, built-up emotion by not holding on to it anymore, through prayer, through the religious traditions, through the meditative traditions, and through even like yogic traditions, all of that is very useful in bringing a sustained state again, sustained state of balance again. Now, having said that, this analogy of these turbines is very good because that's the way windmills work. The windmill is such that it's an efficient use of a natural resource. You're just using wind to turn those blades, and that's it. There's no waste product or anything like that created. There's no wastage. Turbines convert wind into power without wastage, right? So similarly, if our mind is like the windmill, you got those three blades there, and that's a good analogy, in fact, right, for the function of the mind. So because the mind functions in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, it works in the three modalities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. We've talked about some of those things before in some other programs, but it's a good analogy. So our mind is turning. The turning is the energy that is inside. But can it turn just like the windmill that actually produces a dynamic form? It uses dynamic form, and the more it turns in the proper way, it actually regenerates power. So our mind uses energy, it regenerates energy. Uses it, it gets balanced, it gets harnessed, it gets reconnected inside. Again, it utilizes. Again, these analogies are not perfect, but it's a good starting point. Okay, so now, the second point here, avoiding energy drain. Personal energy conservation employs recognizing what depletes energy. What is it that's in my life that's depleting energy? It could be stress, negative emotions, overexertion. What can replenish it? Rest, meditation, religious activities. I would even say people who are, let's say, churchgoers, go to a church more often. Going on Sundays, okay, go at other times also. Churches are open generally. You go and sit by yourself. Sit, maybe take your headphones with you or something. Listen to some gospel music. Service is okay when people are around you and all that is beautiful. Sermon is given. You can also put on a sermon on YouTube or whatever. There's thousands of things available. Why create a difference of that type? So there's ways of enhancing energy rejuvenation and avoiding energy drain by engaging in more religious activity, changing the environment. See, the change of environment is a big thing. If we get out of the house and go into a religious place, the environment is different. The atmosphere is different. The vibe is different. It makes a lot of difference doing that. You see, now, just like if you go to the gym, by going into the gym, it makes a lot of difference. You feel like exercising. If you go into a church, you feel like praying, or maybe reading something from the Bible, or listening to a sermon, or talking to somebody about something religious, or go to a Bible study or something like that. The environmental change makes a lot of difference. People who are, let's say, going into meditation centers, the same thing is true. Once they go inside a meditation center, they'll want to meditate. If you go on a nature retreat, you'll want to be more with nature, with other people who are doing that. Some people like to do silent retreats with other people, then that's fine too. There's a lot of ways of going about this, right? So that's all good. What is the goal here? The goal is to recognize what is depleting energy reserves. The goal is to engage in sustainable habits that nourish energy reserves, right? So nourishing energy reserves is the goal. It's an actual, real goal. It's not theories or just ideas. We want to bring this nourishment from within. Now, wait a minute. Let's see here. Let's go. Where was this? All right, well, that's okay. Let's go to this slide here. So this slide presents a comparative view of energy practices. This is just a comparison between Buddhism and Christianity. So there's an explanation here. Buddhism emphasizes internal energy regulation through mindfulness and meditation. The practice of vipassana, insight meditation, and Zen meditation helps cultivate mental clarity, emotional balance, spiritual awareness, the flow of prana or chi energy, life energy. In Buddhist meditation is often associated with balancing chakras and energy centers. The visual elements of the slide, like crystals or a Buddha statue or whatever, is there. Suggest an emphasis on energetic resonance, where meditative objects aid in focusing internal energy, right? So that's a way that is done. That in the Eastern traditions, Buddhism, etc., there's crystals that are used and other forms of images are used to help visualization for certain concepts and ideas. Okay, energy in Christianity. Christian energy practices focus on prayer, sacraments, and faith-based community connections. The belief in divine grace and the Holy Spirit represents an external source of spiritual energy that nurtures and transforms believers. Rituals like the Eucharist or Holy Communion, baptism, and anointing are seen as ways to channel divine energy for purification, healing, and spiritual strength, right? So these practices that are done in the various churches, they can potentially have the effect of purification, of generating much more healing power, spiritual strength also. The communal aspect of Christianity fosters energy exchange among members, reinforces faith and resilience through shared spiritual practices. So what are some of the key takeaways? In Buddhism, that focuses on internal energy cultivation through meditation, mindfulness, self-awareness. Christianity emphasizes divine energy reception through prayer, sacraments, and faith in God. Both traditions highlight energy as a transformative force, but one is self-directed and the other is externally bestowed, right? So that is fairly easy to grasp. Okay. So there's also spiritual dimensions to all of this, right? That explores the self and interconnectedness, both of which connect with personal energy conservation. Understanding oneself requires internal energy awareness, ensuring that one's energy is directed towards inner peace and fulfillment, rather than being wasted on distractions, stress, and negativity, right? So again, mindfully and deliberately, Sachin here can say, I'm directing my thoughts, my energies, my life towards inner peace, because I want that. I want inner peace. I want fulfillment. So I'm deliberately going to make it happen. So it's because we're in charge of our mind. We are in control of our lives. So I can direct my internal power and thoughts and intentions towards inner peace. That's what I want. I want inner peace. So I'm going to make it happen. I want fulfillment. I'm going to make each experience the best quality that it can be. I'm not going to get wasted. I'm not going to waste my life on distractions, unnecessary stress, and negativity. I just don't want any of that. That's not going to help me. It's not going to help anybody in the family. It's not going to help the world. It's not going to help anyone. Right? So it's a conscious living. It's conscious acting and living. Personal conservation then involves aligning one's values, thoughts, and emotions in a way that sustains and replenishes energy rather than depleting it. It's an alignment. So energy conservation, personal energy conservation means also aligning myself with my values. What are my values? If I don't know my values, I need to clarify them. What are my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions and the way I want to live? So that in such a way that internally I am replenished, I am growing from within, rather than just constantly draining and depleting myself. And then, of course, mindfulness, meditation, intentional living, as we said before, these things are necessary because they reduce mental clutter, they reduce emotional turbulence, and they reduce unnecessary exertion, right? So reducing all three of those, too much exertion, too much tension from within. We don't want tension from within. None of that is at all useful, right? So now, having said that, there is the interconnectedness and the energy flow, meaning what? The concept of energy flow across beings reflects how energy is exchanged in social and spiritual interactions. This is the advantage of a religious community. If you have a religious community, there's good quality energy that is flowing through there, right? So energy is always being exchanged. As soon as we start talking to somebody, even if we're in the presence of another person, energy is exchanged. Always their facial expressions, their vibe, the heat of the body, and all that. There's energy being exchanged in proximity to another person. And if you start talking to them, more is exchanged. And if you touch them, more is exchanged. And it goes on like that, right? So that should be kept in mind. Of course, empathy, compassion, and unity require a balanced energy state. If you want good qualities in connection with others and in connection with social dimensions and other interactions, we want a balanced state, because without that, empathy, compassion, and unity of consciousness won't happen. We might wind up easily overextending ourselves emotionally and can lead to emotional energy depletion. Right? So personal energy conservation in this context means learning to set energetic boundaries. We've talked about this before on several occasions. We have to set energetic boundaries, ensuring that one gives and receives energy in a sustainable way. Right? So the exchange of energy, is it sustainable? Is it done in a way that sustains one's internal power further? Okay, now the symbolism in the slide image there. The electric power lines in the image symbolize the flow of energy in a vast interconnected network. Just as electricity needs to be regulated and directed efficiently to avoid power surges and shortages, personal energy must be managed effectively to maintain mental, emotional, and spiritual balance. We have to have that. Just, otherwise you get shorted out, right? You get angry and upset and all kinds of trouble happens. So it's a good analogy, the analogy of the electric power lines. Just like our nerves in the body are like electric power lines. In fact, there's electricity flowing through the nerves themselves. Okay, now the sunset in the background suggests a natural rhythm, reminding us that energy conservation is also about rest, renewal, and balance, right? So we need to renew, need to remain in our own natural state, and then that's how it goes. What's the key takeaway? Personal energy conservation is essential for both self-awareness, connection to self, and maintaining balanced relationships, interconnectedness. By consciously maintaining one's energy, by consciously managing one's energy flow, each individual can enhance inner peace while also contributing positively to the collective energy flow of the society. And that's what Angel Wing is all about. To a large extent, really. We want each person to transform from inside out and then to contribute positively to the collective consciousness of humanity, of all of creation, really. Okay, so now having said that, There's a lot of meditation techniques and things that are shown here, which we do in some other programs. I just quickly mention it here that mindfulness meditation encourages present moment awareness. It reduces mental clutter and allows energy to flow without blockages. Mindfulness is just being aware of the present moment, that life is in the present, we're awake in the present. It's always just the present. Even when we're going to sleep at nighttime, we're never out of the present. The present is the only reality. Right? So then we focus on breath and bodily sensations just to be aware, because all we have conscious control over breath if we want it. So to take deliberate breaths in and out, to deliberately move the body every half an hour, every 45 minutes, things like that, not to sit too much, not to go to extremes, to follow the middle way, as the Buddha taught. It's very good. So this concept aligns with prana, life force, in yogic traditions. The life force that is there in the yogic tradition, that's the internal force or energy, is thought about it that way. It ensures ensures that energy is circulated efficiently throughout the whole body and mind, right? So there's a lot of other points here. I'm going to move ahead from here into the quantum quality for today. And that is the quantum principle is principle number 11, placing attention on one's experiences. Now, what does that mean? Well, whole of life is an experience. All of life is nothing but experience. So principle 11 during this week 11 is, the quantum principle is keeping attention on the experiences of our life. What are those experiences? Well, there's so many different kinds, obviously. Attention is the cognitive ability to selectively focus on specific stimuli while ignoring others. It is vital for processing information and interacting meaningfully with our environment, right? So unless we are able to place attention properly the way we want it to be, we will not be able to interact. So another way to put that, we want meaningful interaction by deliberately placing attention exactly where it needs to be for the right amount of time, and then pulling away from there as needed. Present moment living, we talked about this just now. Living fully in the present moment is essential. Why? It reduces stress. It enhances well-being. It encourages each of us to savor experiences without distractions. Savor experiences. It's in the present. Having a cup of tea can be very important, very good. Just savor it. Be with it, then let it go. Let each experience allow itself to really just enrich us as much as possible. That's called present moment living. Mindfulness techniques there's breath control and meditation practices. The inward breath can be slowed down and outward breath can be slowed down. Things like that can happen. Many meditation techniques are there. Guided imagery. There is, square breathing, and all that kind of stuff is certainly present. Okay, there's all kinds of benefits, of course, by staying in the present. It reduces anxiety, improves mental clarity, deeper emotional connections, things like that. There's many barriers to attention: digital distractions, environmental factors, mental overload. We don't want these three. Digital stuff that's going on, phones and iPads and computers and TVs and whatnot, all of that is useful. These are tools, and for enjoyment also, but we don't want overstimulation. That's mental overload. And then too much external noise, interruptions, things like that. Environmental factors are also barriers to good quality attention. Strategies for improvement. What can we do? Setting boundaries, right? So establish technology-free time can help minimize distraction. It's good to just leave all the technology alone. Go for a walk without any phone or anything like that. Go for a good 20-minute walk. Don't take anything with you unless you really have to for some reason. Just, keep it away. Keep it at a distance so that we're not always checking it every single second. Just every time the messages come, this comes, that comes. Nowadays, people have so many different platforms. There's WhatsApp and there's emails. There's Zoom. There is, there are Gmail accounts, and people have multiple. I mean, it's just increasing day by day, right? So you don't get time to be away from any of that. So many messages come 50 messages come per day. It's ridiculous. It's out of control, right? So we have to put some control on that. Otherwise, our distractions are going to keep increasing and our energies keep getting depleted, right? So reduce multitasking, as we mentioned before. There are multiple tasks to perform. Multitasking is not possible. Not a good idea to try to do that. The concept of attention has evolved from philosophical discussions to modern psychological studies, reflecting a growing understanding of cognitive processes, more understanding of how the brain works. So there's a lot of history behind it. The real life applications are absolutely present everywhere. There's enhanced performance and better collaboration at work. Once we are able to keep attention on what we're doing, time is saved, the quality of the interaction is better, and then there's a boundary of other, rather than just keep going on and on and on, going in circles. That's not beneficial, right? So there's workplace applications, there's personal life applications. Our bonds with other people are strengthened because the quality of the interaction is better. There are more satisfying life experiences rather than just spending too much time with someone and then getting bored and getting tired and getting into arguments and stuff like that. There's a certain amount of time that's the right amount of time, and then that's fine. Oversaturation of anything is not good, but also to strengthen bonds, the right amount of time and energy need to be placed as far as keeping attention in the context of the relationship. There's also social implications. Attention influences social behaviors, affecting how individuals relate to and communicate with one another. So that's easy to understand. When we're communicating, talking, having a relational connection, be attentive, mindful as to what's going on. What is the person saying? What we're saying? What is the relationship there? We can go on that basis. So there's some case studies here. I will skip some of that stuff for now. There are, of course, neuroscientific findings to all of this. And what's the key takeaway? Placing attention on experiences enhances, it just makes our life better. Our program is, again, application-based program. We want to enhance mindfulness, improve well-being, relationships, productivity. All of this happens in application. For me, Sachin is presenting this, it applies to me first. If we don't apply it, it's just a lot of words. It won't have that much effect. It'll have some effect in the long run, but it won't have as much effect as we would like. It's all about application. Okay, and just a quick review of the vitamin M. Money is like a vitamin, right? So use the right amount of it to produce the maximum benefit all the way through. That concept is clear. A homework assignment for this week, again, be attentive, be mindful. It's very simple. Understand more clearly what is meant by energy conservation. How does it apply to religious meditative life? Write about it. Try to do at least one activity or one or more activity that is going to enhance the religious dimension, spiritual dimension, or a meditative dimension, right? So with that, the standing question is how, where, when, and why am I conserving my personal energy this week? All right, so it's pretty straightforward stuff. We'll do our closing song and we'll wrap it up.